Hey everybody. So this is Tessa again, and I was just reviewing some of the stuff for our class. And some of the questions go over identifying 3 areas that apply to my practicum for the Global Development Goals. And so when I was looking over them, one of the ones that stood out to me the most was quality education. In Idaho, it has been a problem with people graduating. Children or like teenagers who don't really demonstrate a um the minimum standards of like growth or of the minimum standards of education. It has been a problem with teachers just grading things to be easy and pushing kids along and just making sure that that has been and making sure that kids just graduate despite focusing more on their development and their personal goals and such. And their growth, and that has been a really big problem. And so yes, we have the education part, like we have public education, but the quality of it is actually really, really low, and we have a problem with that in our state, and it's something our school district has been really working on lately. And so that's something that I think comes to mind when we're talking about some of the goals. And I think some of the barriers is just that for a long time we didn't have a very good like graduation rate, and so people were like, oh, let's get the numbers up, but they didn't really tackle like the inherent problems with those numbers. And now we're starting to go and do that because they've recognized quite a deficiency we just within our own state, and we see it in our county too and stuff. And so that's something that we have talked about. And then the other one that stood out to me was no poverty. Recently in my area, someone put in another fast food restaurant chain, and there were people complaining that they couldn't even go and afford to go out to eat at that fast food restaurant chain. They just were like, oh, just another place I can't take my family. And because we're really rural and a farming community, a lot of people don't have financial stability, and they do live in poverty and have to and struggle to like make ends meet and live paycheck to paycheck. And that has not helped with getting with COVID and inflation lately. That has definitely made things a lot worse. And then the other one that stood out to me the most was let's see, economic growth. And this one's a really tough one to tackle, and I'm not really sure I have really an answer for this one because we're so rural, we don't have a lot of fluid stuff motion when it comes to economic growth and opportunity. We kind of deal with like a lot of people even resist economic growth in our area in ways because they don't want the area to get bigger. They don't want people from out of state or who aren't local and grown up around here to move in, which is interesting to me because I actually wasn't raised in this rural area. I lived about an hour away before I moved here. Um, but they just want to keep it very small and almost kind of prefer to have no growth over growth. And it can be really difficult, and it can be difficult to kind of balance the needs of the town versus the economic growth that needs to happen too, especially with the rate with the homes and housing and issues that we're having, and especially the inflation with food. Like we're having a lot of those problems and we're feeling them here. And sometimes people think that rural towns aren't affected by these problems, and it's mostly like urban cities and stuff, but it's definitely an issue here too. For example, we have a home on our street that's listed at $1.1 million, and nobody's bought that home. And I would say that I think that one is a little inflated, but still for the area, that even if it was dropped down in price by even like to $900,000, it still would be difficult for anybody to come in and purchase that around here. And so, yeah. And so it is a challenge for sure, with the way that economics has been, and even with like education. Even the people who are educated in our area have the same kind of problems, because they're the companies, and I would say even in the bigger city like Logan, which isn't like a big city by any means, but they just are not matching inflation, and people's wages are just depressed. So those are kind of the biggest problems that I think I can see. And then let's see. Yeah, but with when I see it play out with the clients that I am serving, most of my clients are on Medicare and Medicaid, because our office does usually take we accept other insurances too, but most of our population, even in Preston, relies on those services. And even sometimes people won't get services because they also will not accept help or intervention, and they kind of have like this I want to stand on my own mentality. And so that's kind of why I identified these areas, because we need to really focus more on helping people, um, like the development of people, and not just pushing people out to get a number. That never helps or really tackles any problem. And with the economic growth, we're seeing a lot of economic depression right now, and I think that affects my clients because some of them are not able to get the healthcare and situations that they need, or like the daily necessities that they need. And then when we look at um, poverty, just like everybody, like a lot of people here live in poverty. There's a lot who don't, but there are a lot who do, and who are kind of trying constantly under that level of stress that can erode overall health. So yeah, those are just my thoughts. Thanks.